It was a rough day at Queen's Park today. I got an email from a senior who wondered if she was going to be evicted out of the home she's lived in for 30 years.
Housing is a right,
not a privilege! Stop Bill 60!
Easier evictions are coming to Ontario. Watch this.
Good news for landlords, not so much for tenants.
Bill 60 just passed and tenants are furious. So they're saying that it's going to, one, increase homelessness.
My landlord hates the fact that I have a dog, and Bill 60 just passed.
We're putting people on the streets!
Which is a war on tenants. It is a disgusting bill.
If you are a landlord or a tenant in Ontario, you are going to want to stop scrolling because this video is specifically for you.
If you rent your home in Ontario, stop and pay attention. This affects you.
I just voted against Bill 60 because at a time when 81,000 people are experiencing homelessness.
Welcome to the Canadian Rant. Ontario just passed Bill 60, and the whole province is talking. Tenants, landlords, politicians, and even housing experts. But today, we don't come with judgment. We come with questions. Because this bill could change the way renting works in Ontario forever. Bill 60 means big changes. Landlords won't have to pay compensation if they take a unit for personal use. Tenants can't add new complaints during the LTB hearing. No matter what comes up, evictions for unpaid rent will move faster than ever before. And many are saying the balance of power is shifting toward landlords. Is this a solution to speed up the system? Or a doorway to more evictions and more insecurity for Ontario renters? People are already warning that this could push more families toward homelessness, while others say the system was broken and needed to change. We don't want to push an opinion on you. We want to hear from you.
It was a rough day at Queen's Park today. I got an email from a senior who wondered if she was going to be evicted out of the home she's lived in for 30 years. And I know that there are families having to choose between food for their kids and rent, and students who can't find affordable housing anywhere. And this government just passed Bill 60. They passed it in the manner that they've been passing all their bills, ramming them through with just a few hours of debate, no committee where the experts can speak to it, because this government doesn't believe that it needs to consult. And despite the Ontario NDP putting forth a motion to repeal Bill 60 and all the other parties voting with us, this government thinks it knows better. And so I want to say to all those who are feeling bruised today, keep fighting, because our democracy and our communities and our province is worth it.
Housing is a right,
Not a privilege! Stop Bill 60! Stop Bill 60! Tenants deserve protection! We will not be silent!
Easier evictions are coming to Ontario. Watch this. Bill 60 has officially passed in Ontario, allowing landlords to file eviction applications for late rent in just 7 days. Tenant appeals have also been shortened, among other key changes, including hiring more sheriffs to enforce evictions faster. Ontario's housing minister says the province is restoring balance to the landlord-tenant system, where landlords have long complained about the extreme time and expense required to evict bad tenants. Many advocate groups are not happy with these changes, however, saying that they'll worsen homelessness and mental health, with some political groups even saying it's a shameful day for Ontario. Bill 60 includes so many other changes, however. This 39-page document also makes changes to building, construction, development charges, and more. So what do you guys think? Is this a good day for housing in Ontario or a shameful one? Let me know your thoughts.
Good news for landlords, not so much for tenants. Bill 60 passed today makes it way easier to evict tenant due to non-payment, as well as better hand in disputes. And of course, last but not least, a landlord will not require to make a compensation in order to get their property in personal use, even with 120-day notice. That's a market reality. There is a lot of other bullet points, and if you want to learn more, DM.
I just voted against Bill 60 because at a time when 81,000 people are experiencing homelessness and food bank use is at an all-time high, We can't have the government continue to attack renters. And for the Premier to shout out to protesters and say, get a job, just shows you how out of touch this Premier is. Over half the people going to food banks now are full-time workers, and a third of those folks are working 2 jobs. People simply cannot afford to live in Doug Ford's Ontario. We have to fix the housing crisis, but unfortunately the Premier says no to all the solutions.
Bill 60 just passed, renters are protesting, and landlords will love this last tip for saving money. Under the new rules, let's say if you're a tenant and you stop paying rent because there's mold or there's heat issues, you have to at least pay 50% of any rent that you owe to the landlord in order for you to make your case. And you also need documented proof that you brought it up with the landlord before. Appeals are now cut in half, so tenants used to have 30 days to fight an LTB decision, now they only have 15 days, and if they miss that 15-day deadline, the eviction stands. Non-payment evictions move faster too, as the 14-day notice is gone. If you don't pay rent in 7 days, your landlord can file for eviction. And here's the part no one's talking about. If your landlord wants to take possession back of the unit for themselves, they used to be required to give 60 days notice as well as 1 month rent to the tenant. However, under the new rules, if they give 120 days notice to the tenant, they actually don't have to pay them anything.
If you rent your home in Ontario, stop and pay attention, this affects you. In case you haven't already heard, the Ontario government just passed Bill 60. And why this matters is it gives landlords a blanket of new power. One of the most important ones to pay attention to is the way that leases end. It used to be that when your lease term ended, it automatically defaulted to a month-to-month. And this prevented the landlord from kicking you out, jacking up the rent and renting it out to someone else, or just jacking it up to price gouge you. And a lot of seniors have relied on this for decades. It's probably one of the only reason many seniors can even survive with the cost of living today. And now all of that is gone. Because of Bill 60, it will allow landlords to force you to sign a new lease with new terms at the end of your lease term. And if you don't like it, they can evict you. This is a huge problem and we need to do something about it. And that's exactly why I've decided to throw everything I have at it. I have shut down one of my other businesses and taken everything I have to open up rentaldistrict.com. What I'm doing is building an online searchable database that links landlords to all of their properties along with ratings and a history of the property and a history of the landlord. If you think about Carfax, you wouldn't buy a used car without knowing the history of the car. So why are we renting apartments from landlords without knowing a history of them? They want to know your employment history, your rental history, your credit history. Why shouldn't we know more about them? So if you want to support this movement and anonymously put your landlord or your past landlords into this database, go to rentaldistrict.com and let's start a movement.
As of an hour ago, Bill 60 passed. Bill 60 is the bill that we've been talking about, which is a war on tenants. It is a disgusting bill that's going to result in more people who are unhoused, more evictions, more people's right to housing being removed. This bill is going to affect those who are marginalized the most. This bill is racist and it is corrupt and it is disgusting. And this bill passed in spite of thousands of people protesting this weekend, in spite of the thousands of people across Ontario who called their MPPs asking for this bill not to be passed. Doug Ford's government, as Merritt Stiles has said, is corrupt. So today, Merritt Stiles is going to be introducing a motion to repeal Bill 60 and to bring in further rent control. That debate is literally happening at 1:15. So here's what we need to do. First, we need to call and email our MPP literally right now. This debate is happening as we speak. It's 1:30. So we need to call our MPP office literally right now. And we can tune in to watch this debate quite literally as we speak. The fight isn't over till it's over, y'all. So get on those phones.
If you are a landlord or a tenant in Ontario, you are going to want to stop scrolling because this video is specifically for you. Doug Ford's Conservatives have just passed Bill 60, which, among other things, is going to have a big impact for landlords and tenants. It is going to reshape tenant protections, eviction timelines, and the security of tenure. The purpose of this bill is to fight delays and build faster. But what does that mean for landlords and tenants? Let's get into the major points. Number one, faster evictions for unpaid rent. So previously, landlords would have 14 days after a tenant has not paid rent to begin the eviction process. That 14-day period is now being shortened to a 7-day period. So if you do not pay your rent for 7 days, your landlord can start the eviction process. Number 2, they are removing tenant compensation for landlords who are evicting and taking back the unit for personal use. So landlords are still allowed to give the proper notice to tenants and take back the unit for personal use. This means the landlord themselves would have to move in a parent, a child, or a caregiver of any of the above. And previously, the landlord would owe the tenant 1 month's rent compensation. That compensation is now gone. And number 3, the bill is also aiming to speed up the landlord and tenant board hearing process. So this could be a good thing if you're a landlord waiting for an eviction, or a bad thing if you're a tenant who's trying to fight against one. And like with any bill that any government is going to propose and pass, this does not come without major critiques from the opposition. The opposition party argues that this bill heavily favors landlords over tenants, can lead to increased evictions and therefore increased homelessness, takes away security for renters, and does not actually address the housing shortage and the affordability crisis. Probably going to open up a can of worms here in the comments, but let me know what you guys think about Doug Ford's Bill 60.
Big news today that has landlords cheering and tenants panicking as Bill 60 is passed in the Ontario government today with the intention to level the playing field between landlords and tenants. The whole point of this bill is to speed up the potential building of new homes, but also make it easier and faster for landlords to be able to evict tenants, repeat offenders. So many people feel that these landlord and tenant rules are heavily favoring the tenants, and most of your landlords are not big corporations, they're just average everyday people. This is such a heavily debated topic, with landlords feeling it's about time that we had some reform and that the landlord and tenant rules heavily favor the tenants. It's been well documented that it can take up to a year of court proceedings to evict a tenant, even when they are repeat offenders. Landlords are also happy that they no longer are going to have to pay 1 month back rent to the tenants just for the right to be able to move back into a property they already own. And tenants on the other side are feeling that this ruling could not be happening at a worse time when Canada's economic situation is worsening and unemployment is on the rise. So I would be interested to hear your thoughts. Heavily debated topic. Let me know what you think.
Putting people on the streets!
From his seat, the Premier yelled back for that demonstrator to get a job.
It's totally unbecoming of the office of the Premier.
The man on the receiving end agrees.
Doug Ford hasn't had to go looking for a job in a while. He has no clue the difficulties that people are facing.
The legislature in such a state of chaos, security ordered the public out on a bill that skipped committee hearings.
People's voices do need to be heard.
Worried more renters will lose their homes.
Well, I heard it in the House today for sure, but I don't agree with it because we're creating balance in the landlord-tenant system.
The bill shortens the grace period for a tenant who missed rent before they can be evicted.
We're talking about big property managers who are getting rich off of these schemes, and they're the ones who are going to profit.
But small-scale landlords insist they need help.
I've had landlords call me crying because of a tenant that has not only did not pay rent for months and knows how to avoid the eviction, they also damaged the property.
Opposition parties say this bill does nothing to solve serious problems between landlords and tenants.
All it does is it points the finger at every single renter and tenant, of whom the vast majority are acting in good faith.
Frustration and fear that exploded into the open.
I understand why people are upset, because they're desperate, because they can't afford to live in Doug Ford's Ontario.
As of an hour ago, Bill 60 passed. Bill 60 is the bill that we've been talking about, which is a war on tenants. It is a disgusting bill that's going to result in more people who are unhoused, more evictions, more people's right to housing being removed. This bill is going to affect those who are marginalized the most. This bill is racist, and it is corrupt, and it is disgusting. And this bill passed in spite of thousands of people protesting this weekend, in spite of the thousands of people across Ontario who called their MPPs asking for this bill not to be passed. Doug Ford's government, as Merritt Stiles has said, is corrupt. So today, Merritt Stiles is going to be introducing a motion to repeal Bill 60 and to bring in further rent control. That debate is literally happening at 1:15. So here's what we need to do. First, we need to call and email our MPP literally right now. This debate is happening as we speak. It's 1:30. So we need to call our MPP office literally right now. And we can tune in to watch this debate quite literally as we speak. The fight isn't over till it's over, y'all. So get on those phones.
Toronto renters, listen up. Bill 60 just passed today and it changes the game for you. This new bill gives landlord more power to move forward with faster eviction and less red tape. That means if you fall behind or your landlord needs the unit back, you now have less time and fewer protection than before. For a lot of renters, that stability just disappeared overnight. And here is the thing. The current housing market is favoring buyers right now, which means better option, more negotiating power, and leverage. If you've been thinking about homeownership, this is your sign because you no longer have that stability. If you're interested and you don't know where to start, send me a private message and I'll help you.
My landlord hates the fact that I have a dog, and Bill 60 just passed. I've already made a few videos about him, how he showed up illegally without notice, accused me, and even called me fraud for hiding my dog in a dog-friendly building. And honestly, I keep seeing wild bills passing in the US even when the majority of people are against them. And the same things is happening right here in Ontario, Canada. By who? The Donny wannabe. He even tells the protesters to get a job. So, what's Bill 60 about? Ontario currently has the Residential Tenancy Act, which protects tenants from unreasonable evictions and unfair rent increases. But this new bill makes it easier for landlords to push tenants out by allowing them to claim personal use evictions and shortening the eviction and appeal process. And this is especially alarming because back in 2018, Doogie passed another bill removing rent control for newer buildings, letting them increase rent by unlimited amount. And I've personally witnessed people being forced out due to 40 to 50% rent increase in my previous building. 40 to 50%. Meanwhile, salaried workers are seeing only 4 to 6% increases a year. Let that sink in. And these two bills together encourages renovictions and forced turnovers and create more housing insecurity and homelessness and reduce tenants' ability to fight back. So now I'm wondering, should I finish unpacking or keep my boxes ready in case I get evicted? Honestly, it feels like it's time to move out of Canada. If you're in Ontario, reach out to your MP, email them, demand this decision to be repealed. Good luck to all of us.
Bill 60 just passed and tenants are furious. So they're saying that it's going to, 1, increase homelessness, number 2, quicken the eviction process, and number 3, increase mental health issues. So there's 4 major wins for landlords and 1 temporary major win for tenants. So let's start with landlords. Number 1, you no longer need to pay your tenant 1 month's rent if you're looking to move in to your own property as compensation. Once you give them 120 days notice in advance, you can move in without having to pay them anything. Number 2, you no longer need to wait 14 days, 2 weeks to evict a tenant for non-payment. After they haven't paid you for a week, you can now file the application for eviction. So they shorten that process. Number 3, when a landlord files for eviction for non-payment, a tenant is no longer allowed to make a counterclaim unless they have paid 50% or more of the rent arrears. Number 4, when a tenant loses in court and has to be evicted, they now have 15 days to appeal it versus 30 days. So they've shortened that period as well. And the one major win for tenants is that they removed the amendment saying that they were going to end indefinite leases and rent control. So you guys still have that protection. I hope this helps, guys. And if you have any questions, just send me a DM, okay? There.
Well, thank you very much, Speaker. And I just want to say to my colleague across there, if you're so proud of this bill,
Bill 60, then why didn't you take it to committee? Why didn't you go to every single community in the province of Ontario and defend the bill? Because it's undefendable. This is all about one thing and one thing only, and make no mistake about it. It's about making sure your corporate friends can make money on the backs of Ontarians. That's what it's about. It's not about affordability. It's not about building other homes. It's about your corporate buddies making money. Is that acceptable to you on that side of the House? You stood up there for an hour defending it. If you defend it, if you want to, well, it was whatever it was longer than it should have been. All those people that were here today gave up their time because they can't afford their rent. 800,000 people out of job today, more people using food banks in the history of Ontario. And you're proud of Bill 60 that's going to throw seniors on the street? You should all be ashamed of yourself for supporting Bill 60. Thank you.
Further
So as you can see and hear, dozens of people in the gallery of the legislature here at Queen's Park today making their voices heard and certainly seen in the midst of the vote for Bill 60. Obviously, they're in opposition to that new legislation that did, in fact, pass in the end. Someone actually throwing a piece of paper at the MPPs below. It continued with another number of individuals, including one person with a noisemaker of sort, yelling directly at Premier Doug Ford, saying, "Evict Doug Ford." That, interestingly, prompted a response from Ford. MPPs would normally ignore this sort of thing from happening, but Ford turned around, looked up, and actually said, "Go find a job, buddy." Security then escorted them out before getting kicked out of the actual building. Some of those same people got very emotional when speaking with us on camera.
How are they going to mend this? People be thrown in the street. They're going to be homeless. It's just not fair. People are paying too much already. And Doug should have shot this down. It wasn't in his place.
We brought our concerns to the government many times and have been completely ignored. They keep telling us that this is to help everyone. Meanwhile, we're going to see more people homeless, and I live in a neighborhood that has very public homelessness, and yet we just have more government oversight to make it harder for people to get housing.
So let's recap Bill 60 at this point again. Many people saying they're already at a disadvantage as a result of this. When they are getting eviction notices, they end up going to the Landlord-Tenant Board, which is in fact backed up, and that's part of the problem that the government says it's actually trying to solve by fixing the system, so to speak, helping the smaller landlords out and making sure that those bad tenants, in fact, are dealt with. So Bill 60 would block renters from introducing new evidence during hearings at the Landlord-Tenant Board. That would cut the appeal times in half. They would eliminate the rule that landlords must provide a month's rent in compensation when they evict a tenant for personal use of the property. And the housing minister, of course, has been defending this all along, saying that this is, in fact, going to help tenants who play by the rules.
The vast majority of Ontario renters live by the rules. They pay their rent. They pay it on time. This is about creating balance at the Landlord-Tenant Board day in and day out so we can speed up adjudication. And look, we've doubled the adjudicators in this province, 40 to 80. We've added dollars for administrative process, and we've increased fines to bad actors, bad landlords.
At the end of the day, laws like Bill 60 aren't lines on a page. They are decisions that affect real people, real families, real lives. Whether you're a landlord trying to survive rising mortgage costs or a tenant fighting to stay housed in a city you love, this bill will touch you. Maybe not today, but soon. The truth is, every Canadian deserves housing that feels secure, stable, and predictable. Nobody should be left wondering if they'll still have a home next month. Housing shouldn't be a constant battle between landlords and tenants, because both sides are trying to survive in an economy that has pushed everyone to the edge. People are tired. Tenants struggling with rent hikes, food prices, transportation costs, landlords drowning in mortgages, insurance, and property taxes. And somewhere in that struggle, our housing system is cracking. So, what do you think? Is Bill 60 necessary change? Or does it open the door to more evictions, more insecurity, and more fear? Your voice matters here more than any expert analysis or press conference. So tell us how you feel, because the people living through this deserve to be heard. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Bill 60 the right step or a dangerous one? Thank you for watching the Canadian Rant. If you believe these issues need to be talked about, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're here to talk about what affects real Canadians, and every voice counts.